Without any weapons in his hands, James quickly looked around him for anything that could be used as a weapon. But the surroundings were just the forest floor. Even the rocks that were scattered about weren't big enough to be used to bludgeon the monsters. James tried to take slow, deep breaths. The key in the situation wasn't to panic, which wouldn't be helpful in any way. There has to be something I can do, James thought to himself. As though sensing that James was defenseless, both of the monsters slowed their movements. If it wasn't for the fact that the two monsters were dangerous and had a strong chance of devouring him, he would have laughed at how they looked like house cats stalking a mouse. But in this situation, I'm the mouse. James grinned morbidly. Even if it was a simulation, the wounds all over his body were a real reminder that regardless of whether the two forest cats were real or not, it would be a painful experience once they got their paws on him. Still trying to figure out how to get out of his situation, James' eyes looked in the direction of one of the dead forest cats. For a second, he didn't know what he was seeing, but realized that he could see the handle of one of his daggers. Quickly, James tried to estimate the distance. It's probably a little more than 50 feet. He then looked at the two monsters less than 10 feet away from him and seemed prepared to pounce. Understanding what needed to be done, he crouched close to the ground while keeping his eyes on the creatures. The two forest cats paused for a moment, confused by the human's behavior. Just keep acting confused, James thought to himself. With how much strength his body lost, he wasn't sure if his plan was going to work. The question wasn't just whether he could run the distance to reach the weapon, but also whether he would have enough strength remaining. Figuring out that James wasn't going to do anything, the two forest cats crouched with their butts in the air, their tails indicating their intentions. As soon as they were in the air, James leapt back like a frog. At the same time, both of his hands shot out in front of him. Releasing what was in his hands, it was revealed to be dirt. He grunted in pain as the two forest cats landed on him. Their claws were digging into his armor. Once again, he was thankful for wearing any form of protection. Though it was only leather, the material prevented his innards from spilling out from the attack. With the dirt blinding the two monsters, at least temporarily, James only had to deal with the initial strike. The two monsters were now too focused on the dirt, blinding them as they growled in annoyance. James pushed them off of him, scrambled to get to his dagger. Both of his daggers were about the same distance away from him, but one in the monster's head didn't have a chipped tip, so he decided to take the gamble towards the one that would be better to stab with. He could feel his body begin to give up, but it was only with the help of adrenaline that kept him dashing towards his goal. I can focus on whether I can get out of this alive after I get my dagger, James told himself. Running full sprint towards the weapon, he focused on taking an additional step forward as fast as he could.